Hi friends, I know you are all excited about the arrival of the Canon G7x Mark III, and today I will share all of the initial video tests that I did with this camera. I will also share my thoughts on it because although I'm generally a raving fan about the Canon G7X and Canon in general, I did have some issues that I will demonstrate and address. If you don't know me, my name's Alicia and this is AMaeTV, where I create travel videos and provide video production instruction to help you level up your travel vlogging skills. And because we're all on the same mission to create the best travel videos or travel vlogs possible, I always want to share with you my honest opinion when it comes to any of the gear I review, especially if it involves you potentially investing in a camera. A lot of you know I was super excited about the release of the G7x Mark III. I even did a live stream video to unbox it, and I absolutely hate that I've had any issues with it because I wanted this video to be nothing but raving about the G7x Mark III and some of its new features and all the amazing imagery I was able to capture with it, but unfortunately it's not exactly the case. There are so many great things about the G7x Mark III. If you're not familiar with the upgrades, I will list them right here, and I think there's still room for improvement and hopefully some workarounds to some of these issues. I'm currently kind of trying to get some information from Canon, and I will definitely be posting more videos about the G7x Mark III, so go ahead and subscribe if you want to keep updated on the progress with this camera. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and show you that first day. Enjoy. All right, so here's our initial tests. We're at this little wooded area, this little park in the woods that leads down to the beach, and I've done some camera tests here before and wanted to come down here especially and try out the 120 frames a second slow motion with this little bear, because she tends to be a quick little thing and she makes for good slow motion. Are you excited? Can you say Canon G7X? Do your walking. Keep going. Oh no, our little bear fell down. She can't walk very well in these rain boots. So one thing I'm a little bit worried about is the autofocus. I never had major problems with the G7x Mark II, but a lot of people have been telling me they're having problems with the Mark III. Looks like it's in focus on my face right now. Let's see if it'll pop over to hers.
Go swimming?
No, no swimming. You gonna do running? Look how pretty this beach is. It's really just like part of the bay, kind of hidden area along the highway. But anyway, let's switch over to 120. All right, so I'm already a little like, what is going on? I just went to the camera settings, and you guys, for real, this is the first time I've been able to experiment with filming anything on here, but I can't find 120 frames a second. I know it's in this camera. I will touch back on that a little bit later in this video because I will find it and I will use it. Maybe just not right now. Ew. Run! She's not in a running mood anyway. It is so quiet out here right now. I'm not worried about the internal mic. I also wanted to let you guys hear what the internal audio on the G7X sounds like, because it's not always bad and there's a lot of hype about the external mic input, which is awesome, and I will get to that, and I will get to some of the mics that you can use with it. But if you're not into all of that, this camera still has great internal audio, I think, for the most part, when you are in a good environment like this. It's just silent, there's no noise. And one of the mic tests that I'm most excited about, obviously, if you don't know, is testing this with the Rode Wireless Go, which is a wireless, like a mini, new kind of style wireless microphone. And I think it's the perfect thing because the receiver is the same size as the transmitter, and it's super small, so with the absence of a cold shoe mount, without being able to hook the mic on top of the camera, it's small enough that it can, I think, just kind of dangle from the strap. I'm gonna experiment with some different ways of like mounting it, but for now, I'm just gonna have it dangling from the strap. And I love to put the transmitter on her, so the audio just carries perfectly with her, even if it's like a shot from afar. So check this out.
Ocean.
Who lives in the ocean?
That's deeper. Go to me now. Ew. Wow. Epic on me. Help me. Help me.
Oh, Mommy's here. I taught her to say help me when she crawls up on something and can't get down.
Mommy, up, please.
Up, please. Okay. Whoa! Vlogging with the child is easy. Easy and fun. Isn't it, Ella? Easy and fun. Do you like the Canon G7x Mark III so far?
Yes.
I will say that the digital image stabilization does seem to work just as well as it did on the Mark II. It's always been awesome in this camera. so I always keep it on. Most people do. And we need to go home and do some research on how to get to the 120 FPS. Oh look, there's your daddy flying a plane. Okay, I've dropped the precious child off so I can focus on talking to you guys about this camera and unfortunately some of the issues I'm already having with it. So I did have problems with the autofocus back there on the trail when she was running. It was just really not focusing on her. I could not get it to focus on her. And sure, it was dark, that sort of thing, but then I'm doing a just talking headshot right here and I can always rely on the Canon G7x Mark II to focus on my face. And I know a lot of other people had autofocus issues with the Mark II, but being a person who always likes to offer solutions, I would always tell people to go into the facial recognition settings and actually program your face or the faces of your loved ones into the camera. That way it'll help the G7X detect your face versus the face of like other people in the crowd. And I think that once I did this on the G7X Mark II, the autofocus just got way better, at least on my face. And then I was always able to rely on the touch screen to just tap focus anywhere else I needed it to focus. So I didn't have a problem with the autofocus on the Mark II. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, one of my commenters on the last video brought it to my attention that this is not an option in the Mark III, and sure enough, I cannot find it. Nowhere to program in the face, so you don't get that extra boost of facial recognition and autofocus. And it's also weird, I will say, because the box will track the face even when it's not focusing on it. I really hate that I'm even saying that I have, issues with the autofocus on the Mark III, because I know a lot of other people are saying it as well, and I would have loved for it to be perfect, but so far it's not. Now, I don't know if maybe a firmware update is going to add in this facial programming feature, or if that will really help it, but I certainly hope that it does. And then of course, the issue of not being able to find 120 frames a second. So normally you would go to the queue here, and I would go to the video mode settings that have to do with the size and the frame rate, and you've got your 24, sorry, you don't have your 24, you've got your 30, you've got your 60, and I thought that 120 would be here, but it's not. What you actually have to do, and it wasn't very hard to find this, but you would just go to menu number 1, movie recording quality, and in here, you would still think you could just select 120 along with these other options, but actually, you need to select high frame rate enable. And only then do you see 120 frames a second or 119.9. And now we find out that it says, movie servo autofocus, dynamic image stabilization, and audio recording are not available. Autofocus also not available during recording. Okay. Audio, I have no problem with that. If you're shooting 120, it's super slow motion, it's probably just gonna be B-roll. That's when you put the music in. But no image stabilization and no autofocus? Oh my gosh. I mean, granted, shooting B-roll is a little bit different than just grabbing your camera and going for a quick vlogging shot where you're explaining something, because you should be a little bit more engaged with your camera. You should be trying to get a steady shot, and you should be, I guess that means you do have to manually focus for 120, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to test the 120 a little bit more. The fact that it's a little bit different to access it kind of makes sense now that I see it this way, because it's like such a different setting. It shouldn't be right there with all the other frame rates. For me, the whole point of the G7X is to have it as a backup camera that you have with you at all times, and the more things that it can do that your bigger cameras can do, the better. Now, that is no excuse for it not having decent autofocus or some creative settings like being able to shoot in slow motion. 120 frames a second is something we've been waiting for a very, very long time. And the fact that it's kind of like comes with stipulations, I'm not super happy about, of course, but I don't know. All right, testing this some more. I've got my little darling back. Ow, you pulled mommy's hair. So she's gonna help me test it some more. Now that we can do 120, we're gonna try that out. And again, it's not focusing on my face, even though the face detection box is perfectly on me. Let's try out that 120. And let's talk about the 120. After playing around with the setting a lot more, I discovered that the way to focus in 120 is to set up the shot and lock the focus in before you start filming. Then once you're filming, it can't be changed. It's sort of ironic because this focus technique could work fine on steady images, but capturing quick movement slowed down is the most interesting way to film slow motion, and unfortunately this focus technique is not sufficient for that type of shot. There she is! Yeah, so in 120, there was no tapping the screen to focus. There was none of that. Although, for example, if this type of shot was locked in beforehand, in theory, it could have been in focus. Also, wider shots like this can probably lock onto a wider depth of field and keep most of the larger scene in focus. And that's how long it takes. I don't know. So I'm literally just following Ella around the yard with this dog. It's like the neighbor's dog. Just to see how much and how often this thing will focus. And the thing is, I'm not comparing the G7x Mark III to other cameras at this point, and certainly not to cameras with dual pixel autofocus. At this point, I just want the G7x Mark III to focus as well as the G7x Mark II normally would, and I hate to say that it seems like it just can't. This is what I do, by the way, while I'm waiting for something to autofocus. I flip my hair around. Guess I'll be doing a lot of hair flipping with the Mark III. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I'm hating on this camera. I don't want to hate on this camera. It's also hard to tell in the viewfinder whether or not you're in focus, which is very frustrating because it causes you to look at the viewfinder a lot, which is not something you want to be doing while you're travel vlogging. You want to, or vlogging in general. You want to set up the shot, make sure, okay, cool, the light looks good, and then you want to talk to your audience, which is right here in the lens. Okay, so another thing that I would need to address is the issue of 4K overheating, which is something that people have been reporting. I did have some overheating when I was shooting in 120 for more than maybe a minute. The camera just kind of shuts down when it overheats. 4K, so far so good. We'll see how long it takes to overheat if it does. And I'm in a very hot environment. It's not that bad right now, but it's 90 plus right now. So we're pushing 3 minutes and it hasn't overheated yet. So that's good. I guess if you want to shoot long 4K imagery, maybe you'd have a problem, but I'm okay with it so far. It is pretty amazing that this is like the first Canon camera on the lower end scale that does offer 4K at 30 frames a second uncropped. Even the M50 crops it in. Even the EOS R, I think, crops it in, which is terrible. So it's a big deal that 4K is here. And it doesn't seem to be overheating, so I can't really claim a problem with that. It did overheat in 120 frames a second when I was pushing like the 1 minute mark, and that was kind of frustrating. Yes, but so far so good for now. And like I said, this Canon G7x Mark III saga will continue. I will continue to put out some content on this camera and any little updates, obviously, the Canon releases, if they do. I'm currently, like I said, trying to get some information from them about whether or not that'll happen. I mean, who isn't trying to get that information? But we will see. So stay tuned for more Canon G7X content either way. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and definitely leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about all this. If you've had any initial tests with the G7X Mark III yourself, I would love to hear about it. Also join Travel Film Friends, which is my Facebook group for travel vloggers, but I'm really using that as my safe space to kind of discuss the G7X Mark III stuff over there with you before I discuss it publicly. So I'd love to see you guys there. All right, I'll see you again soon. Bye.